Chapter 12, 8 Swords. Oberon finished his meal in silence, and he sat on the couch to watch the news. And Kain raised his hand and he placed it around Oberon's shoulder, and Oberon rested his head on his boyfriend's chest before sighing. My boyfriend, thought Oberon. It was going to take some time to get used to the idea. His last boyfriend had thrown him under the bus as soon as things got difficult, and as for his last girlfriend, she had dumped him as soon as she found out that he had slept with men before dating her. So he batted for both teams. Big deal. Kain smiled shyly before kissing Oberon on the forehead. Oberon thought, he's such a fruitcake. For a big tough cop, he can act quite feminine at times. I have work tomorrow, said Kain, getting up. Good night, Oberon. Good night, Kain, said Oberon before kissing his boyfriend on the cheek. No need to hold back on my account, said Esther. And I actually with earplugs, so you boys can make as much noise as you want. For real, Cheese? Thank you, said Oberon, smiling happily. It wasn't every day that an elderly person approved of his lifestyle. Don't forget to use protection, said Jack, offering a preservative to his son. And Kain blushed before gradually accepting the gift, and he turned on his head towards the bedroom, and Oberon was already making himself comfortable on his bed. Okay, said Jack sadly, if you truly haven't done it yet and you don't feel comfortable sleeping with him, it is not too late to. It's fine, Dad, I'm just nervous. It's been a while since I had any intimacy with him because of what happened, said Kain, placing his hand onto his neck. Don't tell me, tell him, and he's looking a little too eager, and I do not want him to hurt you, said Jack, placing his hand on Kain's shoulder. And he added, if you're not able to talk to him, I will speak to him for you. I can manage, Dad, said Kain meekly. Jack sighed with relief, and he wasn't used to playing the role of father, and that little bit of wisdom he had stolen from his own father, and he remembered bittersweetly his first time. Jack had needed his father's encouragement to build up the courage to sleep with Bella, Kain's mother, and more than encouragement, Jack wished that his father would have given him protection. Had he won protection, Kain wouldn't have been born. Jack wouldn't have been forced to marry a woman he didn't love. Jack dismissed such a mean-spirited thoughts, and it was too late to bemoan the past. All that a person could do was make the most of the present. Kain entered his bedroom with a lighter step, and he was going to explain this to Oberon, and hopefully his boyfriend would show himself empathic to his situation. Oberon looked at the time and he said, oh, don't forget to wake me up at 7, and just because I'm working for one of your friends, it doesn't give me the right to arrive to work late. I'm sorry, it's just that you look so tired that said Kain apologetically. I have work ethics, rain or shine, sick or well, I always show up to work on time. I had to be at my desk door to miss a day of work, said Oberon, folding his arm. I'm sorry, repeated Kain. Hey, baby, don't put on that face. Taking care of one's friend is more important than work, said Oberon, jumping out of bed. And he kissed the pouty Kain on the cheek into a smile manifested, and then he kissed those smiling lips. Kain sat on the edge of the bed, and to buy himself some time, he said trembling, did you shower today? God, you're such a neat freak, said Oberon, jumping out of bed and entering the shower. And he gave himself a quick cat bath, and Kain said shyly, you forgot to wash your hair. Oberon returned to the shower to wash his hair, and he rinsed it to make certain that he didn't have any shampoo. I didn't use conditioner, said Oberon, coming out of the shower without a towel. But at least now I smell like roses. Your hair is still wet, and let me dry it a little, said Kain, going towards the drawer, and he brought out a hairdryer. Oberon rolled his eyes before sitting in a chair that was under the sink, and he allowed Kain to comb and dry his hair. And Oberon found pleasant the sensation of having his hair combed, and once he finished, Kain hugged Oberon's head before kissing him. Undress for me, ordered Oberon, not bothering to turn around. And Kain's ears turned red, but he did as he was asked. And Oberon saw reflected in the mirror the well-toned athletic torso, the six-packs, and the muscular arms. And his gaze then lowered to admire his boyfriend's magnificent instrument. I am jealous, said Oberon, pouting. Jealous of who? If I gave you the impression of being interested in someone else, I want you to know that, said Kain, turning his gaze. I am jealous of that, said Oberon, pointing at Kain's instrument. It isn't that big, said Kain, covering it with both his hands. Remove your hands, said Oberon. Let me admire it for a little longer. And Kain stood there like a stone idol, and he couldn't help but think of Karina, and she too found the size of his instrument quite fascinating. and he grew saddened after thinking of the first maiden who had ever rejected him, and he always felt he was always her friend with benefits but never her boyfriend. And when Oberon got his full of ogling Kain, he noticed that his boyfriend was a little pouty, and smiling warmly, he said, "I know what will put a smile on your face." And Oberon reached for it, but Kain took a step back, and blushing, he said, "The bed is preferable, and aren't you cold?" "A little," said Oberon, looking down at his own instrument, and frowning, he said, "It isn't normally so—" "Hidden?" said Kain. "Small." "You are allowed to say small," said Oberon, pouting. Oberon guided Kain to the bed, and Kain sank into the bedsheets, and as Oberon locked him into the mating embrace, and Kain felt comfortable with a warm body pressed up against his back, and he grew nervous when he felt Oberon's dexterous hand exploring everything he had to offer, and he relaxed when he realized that Oberon was trying to give him a back rub. "You're so tense," commented Oberon before adding cream to his hands. "You need to relax." "I am trying," said Kain, sitting up. Oberon then said, "I overheard you and your father talking, and I understand that you're nervous. It is one thing to like a man, it is another thing to do the deed. And I was pretty nervous myself the first time I slept with a man. It has been a while since, well, and after that incident with Eric, I found it difficult being lightly dressed," said Kain, shivering. "Oh, well, you can put on your pajama if it makes you feel more comfortable," said Oberon before sighing with frustration. Kain got dressed again, and he returned to sitting beside Oberon, and the fabric around his frame made him feel safe, and blushing, he said, "Even if I'm close, I do not mind that you continue to explore. Just do warn me when you're about to get serious, so as not to be surprised. You know that I spook easily." Oberon that night limited himself to explore with Derek caresses with his hands, and every so often he would kiss those sweet, feminine, trembling lips to reassure his boyfriend of their bond. And when he felt inspired enough, he took care of that problem without Kain's assistance, and this sufficed Oberon's lust demons for tonight. Kain that night didn't sleep much, and Oberon was far more experienced, and he couldn't avoid sleeping with him forever. And the thought of being rejected again due to his underperformance was maddening. He needed to do something about it, but what? The following morning, Oberon was awake when he felt Kain kissing him on the cheek, and the kisses continued until he was finally left the bed. "I thought that this was a nicer way of waking you up, and if you're hungry you can eat breakfast with the family," said Kain. And he was already dressed and ready to go. Oberon looked at the time, and he had about 38 minutes to head out, and this was more than enough to shower and get dressed. And while he showered, Oberon meditated on his relationship with Kain, and after his shower he found his clothing clean and neatly pressed. Since his outfits were clean, he wore the same thing again, and he ate his breakfast quickly before speeding towards his work, and he slowed down remembering Kain's lecture about speeding. And like every morning, he made his way towards the pool, and Eugenia was typing on her laptop while sun-tanning herself, and he looked over her shoulder to see what she was looking at, and it was a bunch of graphs and numbers that didn't make much sense to him. "They are stuck," said Eugenia. "Congratulations, by the way." "Congratulations with what?" asked Oberon, raising an eyebrow. Eugenia reached into her purse to bring out confetti popper, and she popped it in Oberon's general direction. And he began to eye Eugenia with suspicion, and she was a recovering addict, and she was only making the effort to be sober since she was with child. "You finally graduated high school," said Eugenia. "What?" asked Oberon, still confused. "That exam my dad had you take, that was your GED. He wasn't expecting you to pass, but you did, so congratulations," said Eugenia, clapping. "I see," said Oberon, narrowing his eyes. "And how much did that cost him, and I will pay him back?" "Nothing. My dad donates to various charter schools, and you were given a grant to take the exam, and a tax-deductible grant, and it cost us nothing, therefore it costs you nothing," said Eugenia. And she added, "Consider it part of your employee's training." "What grade did I get?" asked Oberon after a long period of silence. D-. "You can study to take it again, but it won't make much of a difference since, well, you graduated, that's all. And a GED is not something that employers look very close to, and they just want to know if you have it or not," explained Eugenia before sipping her smoothie. "Are there any other surprise tests?" asked Oberon, suspicious. "That's the only one, and we do have other training opportunities for our employees, but whether you want to take advantage of those options, that all depends on you," said Eugenia, giving Oberon a little pamphlet. Oberon eyed the pamphlet and he went to read it by the poolside, and he read it for a couple of minutes before placing it inside his pocket, and he returned to Eugenia's side to see what she wanted. "I am going jogging," said Eugenia, springing to her feet. "Is that allowed?" asked Oberon, pointing to her tummy. "I asked the doctor, and it is fine, but plus I miss jogging with the dogs, and Jeremy's going to return any minute, and when he's here, we're all heading out together," said Eugenia. Jeremy arrived with his charges, and he stared at the floor when he saw Eugenia approach, and as of lately, Jeremy was refusing to look at her in the face, and things had become awkward ever since Dorothy had broken up with Sidanta. "Did you think of our little business proposal?" asked Jeremy. "I completely forgot all about it," said Oberon, face-palming himself. "It's alright, I forgive you," said Jeremy while staring at Oberon's forehead. Whenever he did, Oberon couldn't help but feel that Jeremy was reading his mind. It was a silly notion. "What business proposal?" asked Eugenia, jumping into the conversation. "We wanted to buy a house together," said Oberon. "Why don't you live with your brother?" asked Eugenia. "It is time to leave the nest," said Jeremy. "Are you still mad that your brother spent your money on a vacation that you didn't want to go to?" asked Eugenia. "Yes, and he only apologized when things didn't go his way, and has since gone the way they were supposed to. It would have been me who was attacked by Eric," explained Jeremy. "Wait a minute, and you were Eric's original target?" asked Oberon, alarmed. "Isn't it obvious? I was the person who was supposed to stay behind house sitting, and since Sidanta changed my vacation plans, Eric had no other choice but to go after Kain," explained Jeremy. "I am so sorry, Jeremy," said Eugenia apologetically. "There's no need to worry. Nothing happened to me. It has since played out the way they were supposed to. We will not be having this conversation," said Jeremy. The party went jogging in silence, and after an hour they stopped by the beach to cool off, and Oberon couldn't help but stare at the yellow tape in the nearby sea-grape bushes, and the place where Kain had been attacked was so close. "It didn't happen there," said Jeremy, looking at the yellow tape. "The wind made the yellow tape fly away, and do you see? It is barely attached to the branches." The captiva went to the yellow tape to play with it, and Eugenia laughing, seeing the silliness of the guys trying to catch the floating tape. And the cat eventually got enough impulse to catch it and hunt it, and he proceeded to try to eat it. And Jeremy was forced to fetch the plastic pieces out of the cat's mouth. "He doesn't really eat it, he just chews it to annoy me. Even so, it is better to be safe than sorry," said Jeremy, pulling out the plastic pieces from his cat's mouth. I do not have credit enough to buy a home," said Oberon. "I have a decent credit. You can use mine," said Jeremy. "You shouldn't be so hasty to be rid of your brother forever. And once the anger passes, you will regret not being in speaking terms anymore," said Oberon. "I have my reason for not wanting to deal with Sidanta ever again," said Jeremy, and he added, "just like you have your reasons for not speaking to your sister anymore." Oberon's eyes widened, and he was surprised and alarmed, and now he was certain Jeremy could read his mind. "I ran into your sister while walking the dogs, and she asked me a lot of questions about you, and I wasn't certain that she was your sister, but she seemed a little too interested in your well-being for her to be one of your little girlfriends," said Jeremy. "And when I asked her if she was your sister, the fool said yes, and my second guess was that she was your cousin. But even if I had said cousin, she would have corrected me by telling me that she was your sister." "Yeah, that is very clever of you, Jeremy," said Eugenia. Since Oberon didn't want to talk about his family, he changed the subject. "And why don't you want to live with Sidanta anymore?" "Because of Dorothy. When he started dating her, he didn't take my feelings into consideration, and he just brought her into our inner circle expecting me to go along with his plans. And he thinks that he owns me just because he puts a roof over my head, and he needs to be reminded that I can survive without him, and I just find it more comfortable for him to take care of me," said Jeremy while he absent-mindedly petted one of the chihuahuas. "But what does that have to do with you wanting to get a house?" asked Oberon. "Forget the house idea, it was stupid. Can I sleep on your sofa then? And if that bothers you, I can get a futon. I'm used to sleeping on the floor, so I can keep your sofa nice and clean," said Jeremy. "I don't," started saying Oberon. Trust you, I get it. We haven't interacted enough, and here I come asking for big favors, and I want someone else to give me sanctuary, said Jeremy. Who? Asked Eugenia. That's for me to know and for Santa to find out, and who knows? I might just up and go to a place where nobody will be able to find me, said Jeremy dryly, and he added, and just in case I do decide to pull a disappearing act, I am going to train you to walk these dogs. Bye-bye, that's the end of that chapter. Bye-bye, God bless.